Hey everyone, today I'm going to share the story of our baby boy's birth. This is something that I've been planning on doing since he was born, but one thing led to another, and here we are 1 year later. He is turning a year old in approximately 3 hours at 1:35 a.m. on September 11th. So if we rewind to September 10th, 2019, I was 39 weeks pregnant, 1 week from my due date, and I had a midwife appointment that day. We had just sold our condo, so the 3 weeks before that day I was running around cleaning all day, every day, making sure that the place looked immaculate for any people that were coming to see it. So that day, September 10th, was my first day to relax. So I'm laying there watching HGTV all day, feeling pretty good, and I had a midwife appointment that day at 5. So Ante drove me and I told him, just stay in the parking lot, it's nothing too exciting, I'll be down in 20 minutes. So I'm up there and my midwife is asking me, how far past your due date do you want to go? And I said, you know what, I'm feeling pretty good, I'll go at least a week past my due date, no problem. She asked me if I wanted to do something called a stretch and sweep, so that typically gets the labor going. And I said, no, I'm in no rush, I'm feeling really good, I'm at peace. And I was a little bit nervous about the labor, and people would tell me, Roberta, don't be scared, it'll be fine. And I'm thinking, big baby, I think it's like rational to be afraid. I tried not to overthink it, and I knew that I would get through it. But yeah, I was a little bit nervous, so I was in no rush. So she's there and she says, do you want me to check if you're dilated? And I said, yeah, sure, out of curiosity, like why not? I heard that women could be at like 1 centimeter dilated for days. So she checks and she's like, yeah, you're about 1 centimeter dilated, almost 2, but you should be good. We'll have an appointment next week. We'll see what you want to do from there. So she finishes up and I felt something a little funny. And she tells me, put your clothes on, I'll see you next week. And I said, would you mind checking? I just felt something a little odd. And she checks and she looks up at me and she's stunned. And she said, Roberta, your water just broke. I'm like, oh. And you could tell that she was maybe a little bit nervous that I would be upset about that, as if she broke my water or something. So she said, your membrane was very thin, your water would have probably broke tonight. And I said, don't worry for a second, I am so excited to meet my son, it's all good. So she goes and gets this test just to make sure that it's my water. And if you can imagine, it's a midwife's office and the room that I'm in has this huge window and I'm looking outside at the sun and the clouds, and I'm just thanking the Lord for my son, carrying him as far as I did, and just for this moment. And suddenly all the fear that I might have had, it went away, completely went away, and all I could feel was love, and all I could feel was excitement. And so I knew, as God has shown me many times before, that He will always give you the grace to endure whatever is coming. So she comes in, does her little test. Yes, it's my water that broke. So she hugs me and it was a beautiful moment. And something that's so nice about a midwives is that you have this team of 3 and you're with one of the 3 all throughout your pregnancy. So you develop this bond with that person, a familiarity. So when my water broke, we hugged each other and we were both so excited. And she said, the other midwife will meet you at the hospital at 7:30. So at this point it was 6 o'clock. And she said, go home, get your bags, meet her at 7:30 and we'll get the show started. So I call Ante and I said, my water broke. She said, what? And I said, baby, we're gonna have our baby. So I got in the car and he hugged me and he was so excited, and we called everyone in the family. So initially I wasn't sure if I wanted anyone in the room with us. I just thought, I want this experience to be between Ante and I, and I didn't know how I would feel in the moment, so I thought err on the side of caution and, it'll just be Ante and I. But then the water broke and I was so excited, and we're calling everyone and we're like, get to the hospital. So my family drove from St. Catharines. Ante's family was in Mississauga, so very close to us. everyone meets us at the hospital at 7:30, but before we got there, he asked me what I wanted to eat, and I wanted a Big Mac. Those are my favorite. So we stopped, I got a Big Mac, Ante got shawarma, and I knew that the whole birth experience would take quite a lot out of me, so I needed to make sure I had some food in my system, you know? So we get to the hospital, we check in. By this point it's 7:30, it's very quiet. We're in the room. My mom's telling stories about when she was pregnant with me, and she said, Roberta, I went from 3 centimeters to 10 centimeters in half an hour, so anything could happen. And we're like, yeah, whatever, that's not gonna happen with me. And I did need to be on a bit of an oxytocin drip, so that kind of gets the contractions going, but my midwives had said that they gave me a very, very minimal drip, so they said, listen honey, this could still be 24 hours, don't get too excited. And then at this point, 4 hours go by and I'm bouncing on the ball and I'm talking to everyone as if, everything's fine. And the midwife tells me, you're having pretty intense contractions according to the monitor. So you either have really good pain tolerance or, I don't know, we're gonna be here for a while because it doesn't seem like anything's going. And I was having pretty intense cramping, but in the past I've never medicated for my periods. So I'm kind of used to carrying that type of pain. And for me, this was no worse than an intense period pain. So I said, yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty good. And then within, 15, 20 minutes, I started to feel like, oh, things are getting more intense. They're getting closer together. I need to use the washroom. And they said, okay, before you go, we'll check you. So they said, you're 3 centimeters. So within 4.5 hours, I made it a centimeter. So I thought, okay, we're gonna be here for a while. At that point, everyone had left the room just because the contractions were getting a little bit more intense, and it was me and my sister and Ante. And my back started hurting a lot. And I made the comment to my midwife, like, oh, my back is getting really sore. And she said, oh, maybe you're having back labor. And I'm like, no, this isn't back labor. Because I heard that that's the absolute worst that you could have, and my mind could not go there. I'm like, I will not accept that if that is the case. But really, it was just like back pain. So I asked her if I could lay on my side because that usually alleviates back pain. And then at that point, contractions are getting a little bit more intense. Ante comes up to me and he holds my hand and he kisses me on my head and he says, Roberta, you're doing an amazing job. I love you so much. And I had been reading a book on midwifery. I think it's called The Guide to Childbirth by Ina May. And in that book, it said that the mind-body connection is something so important when it comes to birth, because this is a very natural thing that your body's meant to go through. And there would be stories of women, in the 1920s, if a male doctor were to walk in the room unexpectedly, she'd go from like 7 centimeters back to 4 because she clammed up. So the mind really does play an important role when it comes to birth. And then there was another story in the book about a woman whose husband kissed her and said, I love you. And she allowed her whole body to feel that love. And she like pictured the baby going down. And for me, I'm like, whatever. But when I was in that moment, I thought, I'll try it. So again, Ante kisses me. He says, I love you. And I just allowed my whole body to receive what he was saying. And in that moment, I felt Ilya turn, more water came out, and suddenly things really picked up, and this was all within, 15, 20 minutes. So then I start my sister's out of the room at this point, she was getting coffee with my dad, and I start grunting. Not because it hurt a lot, but because I felt a lot of pressure, and the grunting helped relieve the pressure. That's something else that I had read. So I probably sounded like a feral cat or something. And then my dad tells me later that they were walking down the hallway and they heard a woman groaning, and he said, oh my gosh, I feel horrible for that woman. And then they found out later that it was me. And then I start saying, I'm pushing. And my midwife was like, no, don't push. You're probably only 4 centimeters. That's dangerous. Don't push. So then at this point, I had to use my mind to not push, to resist that natural impulse that I was having. So I almost kept Ilya up. She checks me, she looks up and says, you are 10 centimeters dilated. We are having this baby. So if you've kept up with the timing of this, within 45 minutes, I went from 3 centimeters to 10. So they're saying things like, "You are truly your mother's daughter." And at this point, one of my family members in the hallway overheard something. So my mom, my dad, and my sister were behind the curtain the whole time, and I didn't know that they were there. So it comes to the point where we have to push. Ante's there like my football coach, and he's like, "Push, push." And my midwife is there, and she's like, don't push, you're gonna tear." And Ante was just so excited. And initially, he didn't think he wanted to look. He's like, I'll stare at your head, I'm fine. When it came to the birth, he was all up in there. He videotaped, took pictures. He's like, "This is amazing. This is such a miracle. Wow, I'm gonna meet my son." And I think most women will tell you when you're in that position, like, you do not care who sees you naked. You're just like so in the zone. And birth is really like a mental thing. And I hadn't mentioned, but I did not have an epidural because the thought of sticking a needle in my spine was more terrifying to me than any pain that I could experience during birth. So I'm like, nope, you are not sticking a needle in my back, and I'm just gonna offer up any pain. And I found that if I didn't think too far ahead and I just lived in the moment and took the contractions as they came, then it was very, very manageable. And my midwife had said too that most women don't get an epidural because they can't handle the pain. Most women get it because they're afraid of what's to come. So obviously, every birth is different. Every woman chooses the path that she wants to take, and it's all good. But this was very much on my heart that I did not want that. So I was very happy that it went according to plan, because it doesn't always. It usually doesn't go according to plan. And I remember, like, I had the rosary in my hand, and I had a relic of a saint. It was a 2nd degree relic, and I had that on my back. And I was just praying. I was praying the rosary. I was praying to Mary that she would help me, and I remember feeling, Jesus, I don't know if I can do this. If this continues at this rate, I don't know if I can do this. And I kept saying, Jesus, be with me, be with me, be with me. And I got a glimpse of how he felt on that cross, a small glimpse. And I knew that my pain would be over very soon. And to think of what he had to endure over that length of time, I felt so close to him. And it was such a honor to give birth to our son and to feel that close to our Lord. And he was truly with me. So then it gets to the point of, then my midwife starts saying, "Roberta, push, you can push now." And I was still being very vocal about the pushing. And she said, "Listen, don't yell, take the energy of your voice and push it down. Don't waste your energy by exerting it, push it down." And my mom was behind the curtain with my dad and my sister. And my mom said, "Roberta, as soon as she said that, not another peep came out of your mouth." And I thought, just the things that that strength did not come from me. The strength came from God. And also the things that I will do for my child. I will do anything for this child. I have all the willpower for this child. So it was quite a profound experience. And I pushed a few times, and he was out within 15 minutes. Overall, the birth was, 6-7 hours, and I feel blessed. I feel absolutely blessed. It could have gone any other way. I just really encourage you to offer up any suffering that you have. That was physical suffering, but in this fallen world, we have emotional suffering, mental suffering. We suffer in our temptations, we suffer in our losses, we suffer in our isolation. I really encourage you to let Jesus into that suffering. Know that he is with you and that he will never abandon you, and that he can take that suffering, and a new day will come, the sun will rise. And if you suffer every day for 50 years on this earth, but through suffering well and with Christ, you will witness the glory of heaven, and that is eternity. Time here is nothing. And there's nothing that you can't get through. And this is a message that, I have to remind myself of every day. So This past year has been the absolute best of my life. I love being a mom. Waking up in the middle of the night, changing diapers, breastfeeding, holding him when he's fussy. I just love every second of it. I didn't expect life to be easy. I didn't expect motherhood to be easy. And I feel that through leaning into the discomfort that is inevitable, Jesus makes it joyful. Because I can't say that motherhood is hard in the sense that I don't enjoy it. Sure, it's a change of lifestyle, but I love every second of this little boy's life. Every second, and I wouldn't change a thing. And I have to add one more thing. I had always wanted to be married with kids by 23, and when that ship quickly sailed, I remember praying to God, you know, Lord, it would be really great if I could have my first child by the time I'm 30. You know, prayed it once, that was it. And when Ante and I met, I told him that. And Ilya was born on September 11th, one day before my 30th birthday. So, I don't know. It's just so amazing, and despite all of the hardships in life, you can look back and see where God had his hand in everything. So I wanted to share that with you because I thought it was pretty amazing. All right, bye everyone.